Welcome everyone to this, our inaugural tutorial episode. Today we're going to look at drums and how to make them stand out in a mix and overall make them sound better. We're going to stay mostly inside the box on this as far as plugins, but might require one free download. I use something called Camel Fat. It's a free app developed by Camel Audio, which has now been bought out by Apple, but the app still exists in the ethers of the internet. You can search for it and find it. Now let's examine this loop I put together for the purpose of this video. Here it is. Okay, so that's the loop. Now we're going to put some drums on it. I'm going to show you how I route them and how I process them. So I'm going to have the drums come in on bar 5. You know, I work with 4-bar loops in these tutorials just to save time. Just imagine they're extended to the usual 8 bars. Now first I have the standard Roland TR-808 kit that comes with Logic. If you don't have it yet, go in here and check your sound library and download all available sounds and you'll get it. It's a great kit. I recommend using it. Go down here and find a kick. Nice punchy. Kind of like C1. First thing I do is I send the kick to its own bus, and then I send that bus to another bus, which will be for the drums in general, and I'll take something else. I know this is going to be my snare whenever I get to it, so I'll go ahead and route it to bus 10 as well and label it accordingly. And let's go ahead and get started on the chain here. You could go to distortion, add an overdrive, but there's something I like in this Camel Audio, as I mentioned before. There's a preset called British Clean. It's just perfect for making these drums just smack through the mix. Something else I like to do, because a lot of times I'll have the bass in before the drums. I'm kind of strange like that, but I'll open. I used to use the compressor and sidechain compress things, but the new noise gate has a ducking option that's just phenomenal. So I'll go ahead and I put the threshold at about 20 to 30 in between there, depending on the sample, and then I only duck about 10 decibels. The release I like to keep kind of short, and then route the kick through it. Automatically, it'll make way for the sound. Let's check it out. Yeah, so when we program the rest of these drums in, that's a little too much right now. Let's get these drums under control. Since we're routing this to a bus and we want the signal to always stay the same to our sidechains, I only affect the volume after the aux. So on here is where I'll adjust this, and then I'll go down and adjust this one as well as a whole. See how clean that kick comes through? I love that. All right, so now let's work on our snare. We'll do the same thing with the 808 kit. It's in drums and percussion, electronic drum kits down here. And I like to keep them separate. I could multi-out this to save, I guess, screen real estate or something, but I like to have them on separate instances of EXS so that I can affect the envelope differently. It's kind of like cutting out the middleman with an envelope after the fact, which I'm going to show you is one of my techniques here. So basically the first step of the three I'm going to cover here has been the routing. So you route them to a bus always, route the kick separately to its own beforehand, and then route that to the general drum bus. Nothing exciting there. That's pretty standard. Let's see here. I like the brightness of this one. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to go ahead and go with this. We'll label everything to keep it nice and clean. Okay, really just overly simple. Just we're keeping it super simple here. And what I was mentioning about the envelope is it could go on, let's see. That's what it usually sounds like. I like them to be tight, and I like to put my own ambience behind it through a reverb from Ascend. So I like to keep these tight. Sometimes I'll do this to a kick to make it punchy. So you just go to the volume envelope here. Just kind of clean it up the slightest bit. Yeah, I like that. Okay, next, let's go ahead and we're going to add something to the top of this kick. Even though normally right now I'd be working on cymbals, percussion in between, and hi-hats, we're working on making everything sound good as a whole here. So let's go ahead. This is less of a composure tutorial and more of a technique. So let's go back. Let's find an ambient kick sound. Probably best not to stick with the default here. Let's mess with these, figure out which one we like. I like that one. Yeah, ooh, that's nice. It's got a thump to it. But we're taking that out. I think what I like is that whoosh behind it. Control B to bounce it in place. We'll label this kick top. And now we can add this everywhere we have a kick here, or you could do the smart thing and take note of the note of the, I want C1 just like the other one. Just copy this down. There you go. And then bounce that. We can get rid of that. We remember it was the Brooklyn kit because it's in the file name here. We'll just clean these up for simplicity. You can also do Control X. Let's do that here too. And there we go. We're going to need to process this, take the low end out so it doesn't get muddy. We like the thump of the 808. but we want the crunchiness and the texture of this real kit. So let's hear these two together. Move them up next to each other. Took too much out. Get a little click from the region itself. It's a simple fix. A little bit of fade in, a little bit of fade out with all the regions selected. That'll take care of that click. Let's hear that with everything else. This piano's kind of annoying me right now. Let's also route this through our drums. And since it's the top, it's not dealing with the low end, feel free to pan it to kind of make room for it and just add a little bit of variant to the sound. Nice, I like that. Let's go ahead and throw a quick hat pattern in here. I'll show you how I process those. Sometimes I don't even put them through the drum bus. Just take them straight to the stereo out because I like to maintain they're like really delicate in that high end. And when you throw it through something like that, I don't know if it's a bit crusher in the British clean algorithm or not, but it just makes them too loud and they lose their dynamic range. Often I'll like to add a lot of variation to the velocity. Start figuring out where we're going to go here. Okay, kind of like this one. So let's go down here. There we go. Let's figure out what kind of pattern we want. Definitely going to do some sweeps. Sorry, I just forgot where I was. Start simple real quick. Okay, so all I want right now is the sweep up to the kick. And we're going to go into the editor here. Just throw in a quick bit of velocity here. Also, I've found that it's actually more fun for me rather than going in here and automating the pan if you want them to modulate it all without using a plug-in here. It's fun just to come in here and draw it out. So you hit T to bring up the menu here, P for the pen tool, and you always want to start with a solid 0 on the front so it doesn't get confused if you loop the regions or whatever. And just kind of draw a little pattern here. Very subtle. It's not too extreme at all. I'm actually going to do that again. Trackpad's not always the best thing to do this on, so you know. Yeah, it's just simple. Just add a little ambience to this. First thing I do is I cut out the lows and the hats. Sometimes I'll use a bit of sample delay. This time I think we're going to go a little more extreme. We're going to do something I like to do called the scanner vibrato. And we'll go over to stereo rotate. Let's hear what that sounds like. About diffuser. That sounds cool. And I think I actually want this to be more of a 64 rule. So let's do this. Come back down to the velocity. And I think I know where I'm going with this, right here. Make it just rise up to like a little skip of... Yeah, just kind of make this repeat. I think that's what I'm going to do right here. Just kind of be predictable with it. Cool. Hi-hats. Let's see what else. I mentioned layering. I mentioned the using the transient within the plugin of the drums you're using, but there's something further you can do. Like say I want this snare to cut through just a bit more. In Dynamics, it comes with this cool little plugin called the Enveloper. I don't know, however you want to say it. But basically lets you control the attack and decay of a sound that's just being processed solely as audio. Let's just mess around till we find something we like here. Wait. Pardon me? Snare. Now let's do this. Just going to add some attack and take out a little bit of the decay. Let's see what this sounds like. Watch your levels because this is adding volume to the sound, so we'll take this down a little bit. So punchy. I really like that. That's just personal preference. I'm actually going to take this down and tune it. And next, I'm going to show you how I throw a little ambience on there. Let's go to stock plugins for now. Space Designer has a ton of cool impulse responses. Like using plates or snares, obviously, but sometimes it's cool to go with something else like a hall. As long as you cut that low end out, it won't mess up your mix too much. Let's check this out. I think I want to try something else. Maybe we're going for a spacious sound here, I guess. Let's try this. Right hall. No way, buddy. There you go. Now say we're using one of these Brooklyn kit snares. There's a technique I also use to brighten up a snare, and it involves the retro synth. ESP is good for noise, but I'd like to have a little more control over it, so I use a retro synth and go into the noise. Put the filter all the way to envelope, take the envelope down, put some attack on it. Take this down, and let's try this. Yeah, I didn't cut out the other oscillator. So there's that. really gonna need to cut that low end out. It's the filter that's messing us up here. Is that the snare that's making us clip? Yep. Alright, so that's basically just a couple of tricks you can use for processing your drum sounds. I'm going to flesh this out a bit. The next tutorial, we're going to take this little vocal chop and we're going to make it a little more interesting. Thanks, guys. Tune in next time. Subscribe if you appreciate what I'm doing here.